Hi guys, welcome to the Simplilearn Live on the top job roles in the field of cloud computing in 2020. So before we begin, let's wait for a few minutes while people join in. I would like to thank everyone joining in from Facebook and YouTube. Once again, I'd like to welcome everyone to this live session. I'd like to remind all of you that we have a dedicated team here to answer your questions. So if you have any, ask away in the comment section below. We'll also have a quiz at the end of the session. By answering correctly, you could win an Amazon voucher. So stay tuned till the end. Now, let's get started. Let's have a look at some cloud computing stats in 2020. Did you know that 90% of companies use some type of cloud service? That in the United States, companies have spent about $124 billion in cloud services? And the worldwide public cloud service market could grow up to $331 billion by 2022. If you guys didn't realize by now, cloud computing as a domain is growing at a really fast rate, and it looks like there's no stopping it either. On that note, why don't you guys let me know in the chat what cloud service provider your company uses and what it's used for. Now, let's get on to the list. Let's go to number 7. Cloud Administrator. A cloud administrator is someone who's mainly responsible for working with Unix and Windows environments to create multiple cloud servers and to manage cloud infrastructure services. He or she is responsible for developing, configuring, implementing, and managing the systems that make up the underlying cloud platform. Let's have a look at some of the skills required to become a cloud administrator. First off, you need experience with programming languages like C# and .NET. You'll also need to be experienced with DevOps tools like Jenkins, Docker, Ansible, and Chef. You'll need to have an understanding of database configuration so that you can take advantage of all the relevant information about the hardware and software components used by the organization. You'll also need to have experience with cloud infrastructure systems like servers, storage, network, and visualization software. Finally, you'll also need to configure virtual machines, VPNs, and cloud servers. Now, let's have a look at the salary offered to cloud administrators. Now, in the United States, the average salary of a cloud administrator is approximately $65,000 per annum. Similarly, in India, it's approximately 7 lakh rupees per annum. Now, let's have a look at some of the companies hiring for cloud administrators. We have companies like Wipro, Infosys, Accenture, IBM, and so on. So here I see a comment which says, I'm a fresher and want to learn about AWS. How can I start? So actually, any fresher can make a career in AWS as long as you have interest towards the subject. Now, if you are from a non-technical background, you need to put in a lot more hard work and have a lot of patience. So I would recommend that before you take up the AWS course, you have a look at the course curriculum, types of AWS courses, opportunities in the market for AWS certified candidates, and so on. Now, I'll add the link for our course page, which I would recommend you take up in the live chat. So now let's go to number 6. Cloud Application Developer. Now, a cloud application developer mainly focuses on implementing and maintaining an organization's cloud infrastructure. Now, they're involved with designing, building, creating, analyzing, and maintaining cloud systems. Now, these individuals are also involved with ensuring that there's an effective design of business processes in the cloud. They're also involved with a number of different tasks like optimizing efficiency and performance, scaling application components, and security issues. Now let's have a look at some of the skills required to become a cloud application developer. First off, you need to have experience with database languages like MySQL, SQL, and MongoDB. Then you need to have experience with programming languages like Python, Ruby, and Perl so that you can code and create cloud computing applications. You'll also need to have experience with Linux. Now this is because most cloud infrastructures are created with Linux servers. You'll also need to have experience with cloud service providers like Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud Platform, and Microsoft Azure. You'll need to have experience with information security with the help of certifications. You'll also need to know how to create microservices and to create cloud applications. Now let's have a look at the salary offered to a cloud application developer. In the United States, it's approximately $70,000 per annum. In India, the average salary of a cloud application developer is approximately 8 lakh rupees per annum. Now, let's have a look at some of the companies hiring cloud application developers. You have companies like Bosch, McAfee, SAP, and so on. So here's another question I found pretty interesting. Someone's asking me how they can become an AWS Solutions Architect. So for that answer, it's a rather complicated answer. So I'll link a video in the chat that can help you out. So it basically focuses on how you can become an AWS solutions architect. So now let's go to number 5, Cloud Network Engineer. A cloud network engineer is responsible for implementing, supporting, maintaining, and optimizing the network hardware, software, and communication links of the organization's cloud infrastructure. He or she basically focuses on automation and security while building the cloud infrastructure, enhancing network tooling visibility, and improving productivity. Now let's have a look at some of the skills required to become a cloud network engineer. First off, obviously, you need to have experience with networking, which means a familiarity with the internet and WAN communication technologies, protocols, and best practices. You need to have an understanding of cloud security and how you can design a public cloud with multiple options. You'll need to have an experience with data center administration, which basically means an understanding on infrastructure design, operations, and lifecycle management. And finally, you need to have experience with cloud computing platforms like Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud Platform. Next, let's have a look at the salaries offered to a cloud network engineer. Firstly, the average salary of a cloud network engineer in the United States is approximately $72,000 per annum. In India, the average salary of a cloud network engineer is approximately 4 lakh rupees per annum. Now that we're done with this, let's have a look at the companies hiring cloud network engineers. We have companies like Amazon Web Services, Rakuten, Cisco, and so much more. Now for number 4, we have Cloud Automation Engineer. A cloud automation engineer focuses on cloud automation, orchestration, and integration. He or she implements, optimizes, and supports the cloud infrastructure and ensures it has high availability. They also have to increase the cost effectiveness and availability of the cloud. Now, let's have a look at some of the skills required to become a cloud automation engineer. First off, since the role is cloud-based, experience with a cloud service platform like Microsoft Azure, AWS, or Google Cloud Platform is an absolute must. You'll also need to have experience with programming languages like Python and Go that will help you make the process of automation easier. Next, experience with DevOps tools like Chef, Ansible, and Puppet are seen as a huge plus. You'll also need to have an understanding of Docker and containers. Experience with databases like PostgreSQL and MySQL that can handle multiple workloads would be very useful. And finally, you need to have experience with virtualization, which means you need to know how you can work with virtual servers, applications, storage, and networks. With this, you can reduce the amount of resources required by the organization. Now, let's have a look at the salary offered to cloud automation engineers. In the United States, the average salary of a cloud automation engineer is approximately $79,000 per annum. The average salary of a cloud automation engineer in India is approximately 5 lakh rupees per annum. Now that we're done, let's have a look at some of the companies hiring cloud automation engineers. We have companies like Oracle, Google, Capgemini, Disney, and so on. So here's another question in the chat. Which cloud computing platform should I be using, AWS or Azure? So in my opinion, both AWS and Azure have their own set of advantages. In fact, they're really similar to each other in terms of what they have to offer. They even have similar free tiers which you can take advantage of for an entire year. Now, if you want to see how they're slightly different from one another, you can check this video out. It's called AWS versus Azure. I'll link it in the chat. So this also means that we've reached midway, which means I have a question to ask you guys. What do you guys think is at the number 1 position? Let me know in the live chat. And now to number 3. Cloud Security Manager. A cloud security manager is someone who's responsible for providing security for cloud-based digital platforms and protecting the organization's data. He or she may be involved with creating new security methods or to analyze existing ones. They may also have to create cloud-based applications, performing threat simulations, and providing security recommendations. Now, let's have a look at some of the skills required to become a cloud security manager. First off, you'll need to have experience with at least one of the popular cloud service providers like Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and GCP. You'll also need to have experience in programming languages like Python. Experience with commonly used DevOps tools like Jenkins so that you can implement continuous integration or continuous deployment models would be very helpful. You'll also need to be well versed with TCP/IP protocols and other networking concepts. You need to be well versed with PKI, SSL, SSH, HTTPS, and so on. Experience with web-based analytics and services would also be very helpful. Now let's have a look at the salary offered to a cloud security manager. In the United States, the average salary of a cloud security manager is approximately $99,000 per annum. In India, the average salary for cloud security manager is approximately 11 lakh rupees per annum. Now let's have a look at some of the companies hiring cloud security managers. We have companies like Deloitte, VMware, Cisco, Dell, and so on. Now let's move on to number 2, cloud engineer. A cloud engineer is an individual who is responsible for any technological duties that are associated with cloud computing, including design, planning, management, maintenance, and support. They are also involved with orchestrating and automating cloud-based platforms throughout the organization. Let's have a look at the skills required to become a cloud engineer. First off, you'll need to have experience with at least one of the popular cloud service providers like AWS, Microsoft Azure, or the Google Cloud Platform. You'll need to have an understanding of networking concepts like building and accessing servers, virtual networks, and so on. This enables cloud engineers to make sure that the network is responsive to the users. Next, you need to have experience with virtualization. With virtualization, you can reduce how many hardware units you need with the help of virtual machines. It also makes resources scalable and fault tolerant in an organization. Experience with the Linux operating system would also be very helpful, considering how 30% of the servers that power Azure are Linux based. You'll need to know about APIs to design RESTful services. Experience with DevOps is also a major skill to have, since it'll be able to help handle work dependencies between the development and operation teams. And finally, you need to have programming experience with languages like Java, Python, C++, and Ruby. Next, let's have a look at the salary offered to a cloud engineer. In the United States, the average salary of a cloud engineer is approximately $105,000 per annum. The average salary in India is approximately 5 lakh rupees per annum. Now, let's have a look at some of the companies hiring cloud engineers. We have companies like McAfee, IBM, JP Morgan, Visa, and so on. Now, I see a pretty good question in the chat. How do you become a cloud engineer? So, to become a cloud engineer, you need to have experience with the programming language, experience with at least one cloud service platform, which is Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud Platform. The choice is yours. And you need to specialize in a particular service, be it storage and networking, disaster recovery, and so on. I'll leave a link to a video on how you can become a cloud engineer. You can check it out. It goes into much more detail. And now for number 1, cloud architect. A cloud architect is responsible for managing cloud computing architecture in an organization. He or she handles everything to do with front-end platforms, servers, storage, delivery, and networks. Now, let's have a look at some of the skills required to become a cloud architect. First off, you need to have knowledge in programming. Knowledge about Perl, Python, Ruby, PHP, Java, and .NET can provide users with the ability to build, deploy, and manage applications quickly. You'll need to know about the basics of networking. Since most of the work what you'll be doing would be web related, knowledge about networking can be really helpful. Next, you'll need to know about the basics of networking. Since most of the work you'll be doing would be web related, knowledge of networking would be really helpful. Knowledge about data storage fundamentals are also really important. This provides you with the knowledge to determine which data storage option to use and when. Being experienced with cloud service platforms is also really important. Platforms like AWS, Google Cloud Platform, and Microsoft Azure are what you are going to be basing most of your work on. Experience with them is pretty important. And finally, cloud security. This will help you make sure that your data is secure and only authorized code is run and the right people are allowed to run it. Now, let's talk about the salary of a cloud architect. The average salary of a cloud architect is approximately $107,000 per annum. In India, the average salary of a cloud architect is approximately 16 lakh rupees per annum. And there you go. Those are the top job roles in the field of cloud computing. Now let's have a look at some of the companies hiring cloud architects. We have companies like EY, Wipro, Huawei, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, and so on. And now, like I said, the quiz. So here's the question. A dash is a virtual machine which runs workloads on the cloud. You have 4 options. Option A, emulation. Option B, host. Option C, instance. And option D, unit. We'll put the question in the live chat, so in case you missed it, you can check it out there. I'm going to repeat the question. A dash is a virtual machine which runs workloads on the cloud. Your four options are option A, emulation, option B, host, option C, instance, and option D, unit. Let us know your answers in the live chat so that you can win an Amazon voucher. The winners of the quiz will be announced on Monday, 23rd March in the comment section. With that, we've reached the end of this video. Do you agree with our list? Think we missed anything important? Let us know in the live chat or in the comment section below if you're watching later. Thank you for joining this session. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more from Simplilearn.